and welcome to Blockbuster Bums. Kick back your recliner, crack open a beer, and let's talk movies. And today's movie will be From Russia with Love, the second installment of the Bond series. So, with that being said, I'm going to kick it over to Justin here so he can give us a quick synopsis of From Russia with Love.
All right, so like you said, of course, this is the second installment of our James Bond series. This one is, I think this one definitely more plot driven. It's James Bond is falling into an assassination plot by Spectre. They are pissed off about him foiling their Dr. No's plot and also killing him in Dr. No, of course. So they use a what would she be? Well, Romanova.
Romanova, yeah.
They use her
Tatiana.
That's what I was looking for. Basically, to kind of say that she wants to defect. Needs some help getting away from Smersh. And they use her to get to Bond to try to have him assassinated. But essentially, this is really about trying to kill Bond. And Spectre is getting revenge, using their revenge sector to go after him. And then, of course, there's other stuff that, what is that thing? Something gets stolen, and then that becomes Bond's mission.
The Lecter.
The Lecter. I like the way he said the Lecter. Lecter.
Which is like a decoding device or something. Correct?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Is that a real thing?
I have no idea.
Something that is a real thing?
There were such things. Like during World War II, of course, there was the Enigma machine.
Yeah.
So, things like that did exist.
But yeah, essentially it's about getting revenge on Bond and also, recovering this Lecter and returning it to not returning it to where it came from. This is
taking it to MI6.
British intelligence wants this. So, yeah.
All right, thanks, Justin. Now, as we did last week, I will go to Patrick to give us our newbie point of view. Patrick, what did you think watching this movie for the first time?
I liked the movie. I did not like the movie as much as I liked Dr. No, though.
Okay.
And I know I used this word a couple of times when we last talked. I like fun.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie had, of course, a fair amount of fun, but it wasn't nearly as fun as Dr. No. That said, I liked it well enough, and the characters were fairly interesting, and I'd watch it again and probably take away different things from it in the next viewing, but it wasn't quite as joyous as I'd hoped it would be.
Okay. I think that's fair. Tom, what did you think in your reoccurring viewing?
I really enjoyed it. Once again, even just the opening sequence, you can tell it's still not what we know as the Bond films, but like they put the title in there with the theme song and all that and the music itself. And then what I really enjoyed more than anything in this is kind of like the special effects of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially when you're like, not to cut ahead, but like when he's in Italy and all that, the helicopter scene, the boat scene, like there's a lot of old school, real world practical effects that you could see that were used then that I really enjoyed seeing. That like you can tell now there's like CGI and programs for like water and fire and stuff like that, but there you can see like, oh, that's a real explosion that just happened and all that, or that's a model that just was blown up and like whose scale, like there it was that kind of stuff that I found really charming in this movie.
Oh, good, awesome. Justin, your thoughts?
To, I guess, piggyback off of what Patrick said, it didn't seem as fun, but it also, the tone was right on. I mean, it's mostly set in Russia. When you think of Russia, you think kind of, in movies, it's like a dark, gray, kind of dreary. You don't think of Russia as like Jamaica was. I think, you've said it off air a couple times about it. Bright, it's vibrant, there's lots of color. And then you switch to Russia. So definitely not good. I think the tone was perfect.
Literally darker.
Yeah, it was darker. And that's
And
what we know Russia to be.
I feel like so many of the scenes took place at night as well.
Yeah, there were a lot of night shots in there.
Yeah. Ray, what were your thoughts?
I think I equally enjoyed it as much as Dr. No. They kind of doubled down on the espionage aspect. Like this government's watching this government, and we know they're watching us, and we know we're watching them, and we know this government's out to get him, and we got to do this thing, and then from here to there, we got to get this, and they just really doubled down on that. They made it more like a little more serious, and like Barry was saying, they took a little bit of fun out of it, but that's part of being a spy. You're not always gonna be fucking a bunch of women, got this, big loot of cash. There's actually going to be serious missions that you got to go on and get done. So I kind of like that. But yeah, we'll just leave it there so far.
Yeah. No, I thought for me it was on par with Dr. No, but just different. I thought it was a very good quality movie. I liked the fact that Bond seemed to be very vulnerable and almost like just completely played through the whole movie. Like Bond's not in charge, like you would think of Bond. Like even Dr. No, we talked about how he was even telling Felix what to do. He's telling Coral what to do. He's doing all those things. Well, in From Russia with Love, he's out of it. He's almost unintentionally out of his element. Like he's kind of playing to, and what is his name again? The guy that like has all the sons.
Karim Bey.
Yeah, Karim Bey. Like he's almost like deferring to Karim Bey anyway, but at the same time, the Spectre is in charge, but they just don't know it yet. Like when he's bragging in the train car, like, well, I saved your life with the gypsies, and he essentially saved his plan from getting foiled in that museum. Yeah. Like he's constantly helping Bond so that he can kill him at the right moment, so their plan works. So like it's almost like it's a spy movie, but the spy is not doing well, essentially. And it's I find it just very interesting to watch Bond screw up and watch Bond not be like on top of the game. I guess is the best way to put it.
Perfect.
Yeah,
like throughout the movie, his life was in Grant's hands, and he didn't even realize it.
Yeah. Yes, very much so.
I think that was a good way to introduce like Spectre's potential power there. Like I said, at first, like in Dr. No, we only know that Dr. No was an agent of Spectre and everything, whereas here it's like you can see, like you said, Spectre has control over the whole movie, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like it is pretty much about the power that's like, manipulating, like, hey, don't kill him until it's time for us to, and everything. There is a bigger plan at play that we have here.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a case to be made that James Bond is the main character in the movie, but the movie is about Spectre.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Because we get number 1, we get number 3, we get number 5. We also get one of their big henchmen in Grant. We get this very intricate plan that's going to cause war with other countries. It's going to cause Bond's death. It's going to, like, all...
It's their agency's character development.
Yes.
Yeah, because realize Dr. No, he didn't have a big henchman number 1.
Mm-mm.
He didn't have that. But this guy, Grant, definitely up to this point, he's probably one of the best as far as second in command, your henchman. I like his development because he had a huge part throughout the movie.
And I think it sets the tone for the future henchmen that we'll see too.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some very, very famous henchmen in some of these movies that we're going to see later on. But yeah, this guy is definitely the first of them, that henchman type. But he's not just a henchman. He's very formidable. It's not like he's Rocksteady and Bebop, out there like a total idiot.
Like Bond's at this point. That's how they kind of, tout him as the equal.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that. It was a very, very nice start to the henchman league, if that's the way you want to put it. Speaking of new things, though, we get our introduction to Q in this movie.
The iconic Q.
So before the rest of us touch on it, Barry, what were your thoughts of Q, who, again, I'm going to say something that's not really a huge giveaway, but Q will be a recurring character. What are your thoughts in your original sighting of him?
Yeah, I mean, of course, he didn't have a huge role in the movie, but I guess he strikes me as a charming character. I definitely see the potential to have some fun with him and do some more with him. So yeah, I'm aware that there's interplay in coming movies between him and Bond that's fun and snarky and that sort of thing. I don't think we really saw that here, but you can see the potential for it, and seems like a good character.
I think this scene with Q, without trying to get into a bunch of Q stuff, there was never going to be a bunch of fun or snarky play with the two of them because they're sitting in M's office in front of M.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's necessarily a possibility. I also think that this is just the beginning of their relationship. In future movies, Q is going to reference things that has happened in the movies we're watching now and be like, well, you screwed this up or you did this. And that's,
They'll actually have a history together.
Right. And this is our first introduction into Bond really having gadgets.
Yeah.
You get, obviously, the briefcase. It has the knife come out of it. It has extra ammo in it. It has money in it. It has tear gas if you open it the wrong way. And it has a sniper rifle in it. So, I mean...
Aside from that, it's all pretty practical stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like gadgets as far as, like, fancy things, but they come out of the suitcase in gadgety ways, I guess. Like, the knife shoots out the side when you push a button, and, the money's on the straps. Yeah, like, the buttons on the back twist, and the bullets come out. Mm-hmm. Like, just... It's gadgety, but they're not really gadgets. They're just extra ammo, extra money, extra gun, like... And if somebody tries to break into it, they get tear gassed. Like that's the extent of it, I guess. But it's kind of our introduction because obviously going forward, Bond will start to gather more gadgets.
Yeah,
it won't just be him carrying a gun like it was in Dr. No.
Yeah,
I'm curious knowing. Sorry, Justin. I'm curious knowing Ray likes the more down to earth aspect of these movies. From what I can tell, what's your take on that sort of a gadget?
The whole briefcase?
Like the briefcase and all
that
details.
Dude, I'm down with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's when we start getting to like, I don't know, like Moonraker.
Well, yes, I would agree with that. Without trying to get into Moonraker, I would say yes, it is out of control.
So at this point, you're still bought into these sorts of gadgets.
Yeah, I just want to be like this shit could happen. Not like, oh yeah, maybe like in 20,053, this shit might be rocking, I don't want nothing like that. Like I want it to be like realistic as possible. That way, it makes me feel like, I'm gonna enjoy the movie. I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but I feel like the more realistic, the more relatable the movie is, and the more enjoyable I'm gonna have with the movie.
So you're pleased that the briefcase didn't come with a flamethrower pen?
Yeah, exactly.
Which would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another thing that really stood out to me, and I know last week we touched on things that we could or couldn't get away with, or I think there's two categories to it. Is something you couldn't do today? Or is it something you couldn't do today and still be the hero at the end?
Oh.
So my question to you guys is, obviously he slaps the crap out of Tatiana at one point. Do you think that falls into one of those two categories?
Yeah, you definitely can't do that. He would be canceled as an actor. Even though it was just acting. He probably would have, it would have been a boycott the movie type of
do you think it makes a difference that, like, essentially it's a matter of national security?
Well, that's how I would justify it, but I mean, again, society, they're not going to go for that sort of thing now.
I mean, he starts smacking booties throughout this movie and the next one, so I mean,
he does. Yeah, he smacks them.
Like that's his trademark. That's his trademark for like the next two movies is him smacking ass.
Mm-hmm. But I said once again, you're not going to please everybody. So whether it's there or not, no matter what he does, you're going to get criticism.
Yeah.
But think about it then. No one thought about it as a thing, as a, oh gosh, we don't need to see this.
Well, once
It was
again,
just, it was just entertainment. It was seen exactly what it was, a movie.
Yeah.
Regarding the, kind of roughing Tatiana up a little bit, given the circumstances, I didn't see it necessarily even as a man, smacking a woman. It's an agent, smacking another agent.
That's true.
Who's seemingly causing a threat to him.
So are you guys talking about the train part?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. No, like I didn't have nothing wrong with that. Like it's two agents going at it. Like it's life or death and you got a mission to complete and that's what you got to do sometimes.
Yeah.
You got to get information any way you can.
Yep.
So
I mean, I see what you guys are saying, and I think you're correct, because otherwise people would only use women because they're like, well, the men won't touch them, so like we'll just send women in and nobody will touch them and they'll kill everybody.
Very effective in present day.
yeah.
I'm going to nicely ask for the information that I need. And if you don't, okay. I'll back away slowly.
Like in today's, like, what are you going to do? Like, oh, here's some, M&Ms. Will you give me some info? Like, you can't go about it like that. That's just dumb. You're not going to get anywhere.
It's literally national security, world-ending type of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to do what you got to do.
So context matters.
Yeah. Context matters.
So, when we've brought her up a few times now, what was your all's opinion of the character Tatiana? Like,
I was fairly indifferent toward her. And again, I know I'll rewatch this movie and I'll probably feel differently about it. And again, I liked it. I just didn't love it. She's beautiful. She's fairly engaging in it, but she's also kind of presented with something of a flat affect, in my opinion, to where, I don't know, I just take her or leave her.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, when I think of the Bond girls, I'm not talking about looks, I'm just talking about them as characters. When I think of Bond girls, she's not one that stands out to me.
Yeah.
Like you said, like almost like a flat affect. I don't know. Like, I don't feel like she really developed a whole lot over the course of the movie.
Yeah. And maybe that was purposeful. Maybe that was the direction she was given. I don't know.
Well, yeah, because she was an adversary forced by other adversaries to pretend to be.
Yeah. That's
To pretend to be
there was a
good, and then
different dynamic to her
she
character.
eventually
and all that.
turned good.
So maybe the writers were confused on how to go about it because
Yeah.
like she was like this one, like a triple agent kind of thing. So
Pretty
maybe
much, yeah.
maybe they was kind of confused on how to develop the character altogether.
So, did you all notice what her orders were? Like, do whatever this man tells you to do.
Yeah.
That was the extent of her orders.
But you see, she pushed back against that.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, you can do it or die, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's like that's just like.
Did you find
Communism.
Did you find yourself feeling sorry for her in that moment?
It kind of. I did.
Like, it's either go sleep with a man you've never met before, or die.
Yeah. When you put it that way, yeah, I did feel bad.
Yeah, she was put in a bad
She
situation.
definitely was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is a really crappy situation. But at the same time, can you picture that being real? Like countries using women as spies like that? Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
like,
Most definitely. Yeah.
Really just look at, like, I don't know, Putin has a whole like squadron full of like women and everything soldiers right now. I mean, it's not like as if it's not happening even now. Like, so I mean, to that extent, you could argue, but I mean,
Are you saying that some governments may recognize that many men have a weakness for women? Is this what you're saying?
The tale is old.
the honey pot berry.
Yeah.
Really?
was I the only one that thought the train ride took like half the movie?
Yeah, it was like 40
did.
minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a very
Yeah.
long
Yeah, it did take a minute.
It felt like it was like dragging on, and then when like it stops and Bond gets off, you're like, all right, it's over. But no, he's just taking a break to smoke break, and then he gets back on. Yeah, I'm like, no.
The old
Like-
smoke break trick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I almost started counting how many times he fucking told her to lock the door.
Yeah.
Lock the
That
door, I'm
kind
leaving.
of
Lock the door, I'm
alludes
leaving.
to what Tom was saying about Dr. No, you're on the journey with him, and you really are on that
Yeah.
journey throughout that whole train ride.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So, what did you guys think of his like the big action sequence in this movie? I guess would be, well, there's two of them. You have the gypsy camp attack,
Love it.
and then you also have the boat scene where he's running from all the boats, and then he ends up blowing them all up.
Yeah, I love both of them. Like I said, that's where the like, especially the Italian, like when he was in Italy, all the special effects there. But the scene with the gypsies and all that, the gunfighting there. It was the acting and everything to where you're pointing and like almost like throwing the bullet out the gun. But then how nonchalant old boy was when he was sitting at the picnic table just firing away.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
did-
Karen,
yeah.
he was
Didn't even
just
take cover. He's just sitting there and everything. And then at one point it's like, I'll just flip the table now. And just so nonchalant in a firefight. Loved it and all. And the whole time Bond's out in the open, like you said, with the Spectre agent and everything, just like sniping, making sure he doesn't get hurt and all. Like, there were a lot of things that, like I said, they were. It made it. That was what made it fun for me, because it was just so like, oh, this is so unrealistic about how people would act in a firefight or in a chaotic situation.
Mhm.
That it was like, all right, it's clearly acting, but it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
Something that I found watching it this last time that I thought was funny was, so Karim Bey gets shot in the arm, okay, and he spends like the next big portion there holding his arm and checking the blood and holding his arm some more. Not that I'm saying you wouldn't hold your arm if you got shot in the arm, but the lead gypsy also gets shot in the arm and he never touches it, not one time. Like, he just walks around like his arm's perfectly fine. He's got a bullet hole through it. Like,
That's why he's the lead.
Big
gypsy.
strapping bullet, yeah.
He's the gypsy king.
so what did you guys think of the gypsy fight?
I liked it. I thought it was fun. It was.
Like,
It was
now,
interesting.
okay, I want to say this: the gypsy woman fight.
Oh,
That's what I mean.
Okay.
I liked it. I thought it was
Okay.
fun.
Yeah, it was different but enjoyable and all.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, even when Bond has brought the two girls and everything there, and I was like, all right, go Bond. Like, this is hospitality. Like,
Yeah.
Is that a thing in gypsy cultures? Like they fight over who gets to marry the son? Is that
I don't know. There's that show on TLC, but I don't remember anything like that. Like,
And they both acted like they were Lady Deathstrike. They both held their hands out like this, and
Oh,
they
yeah,
had
they were
big claws on them.
each other?
Yeah, like,
Literally have their claws out. Yeah. Yeah. As someone who doesn't like to watch women fighting, frankly, it's something I have no interest in. I didn't mind it at all. Of course, I know it's acting and it's played up for effect. You'll never catch me watching women punching each other in the face, though, like MMA or something. The scene was good, and kudos to them for putting together, the ladies, whoever the directors are, for putting together a pretty good looking fight scene.
yeah.
yeah, I can see that. All right, so we touched on that. So let's go to the second one here. What did you all think of the boat chase
I like
fire
this-
fiasco?
And this is one where I found myself like being wrong and anticipating and all that, because it's like, you see the oil drums and all that when he's tossing them, or the gas drums into the water, and I'm like, oh shoot, they're gonna shoot them and it's gonna make an explosion and all. It's like I immediately like defaulted to like modern day Hollywood, and no, that's not what happened, and that's what I liked about it, because you can shoot a gas tank and it's not gonna blow up like that. So I was like, all right, what's gonna happen? Then we actually set fire to it and all. I was like, okay, that's way better. Like, but I enjoyed the whole boat chase and whatnot. Like, I thought it was a fun time.
I felt like, I agree, I did like the boat chase, but I felt like the boat chase and the helicopter chase,
Yes.
the camera work on both those scenes were super, super similar. Like, it was very fast, and it was very like zoom cut, zoom cut, zoom cut. Like, it was just like,
It was almost like he's watching an old martial art film that's done in real time.
yeah,
Like, it's like you have to almost slow it down, because the way a human moves on camera, frame by frame, looks ridiculous if you played it in real time. So it's the same. But even like when we were talking about the explosions of the helicopter, to where like you can see like clearly when the helicopter, there's already a helicopter sitting on the ground that has blown up. It didn't just drop
yeah.
and all that. So I mean, you can see little things like that to where like, okay, this is a model in the air. this is an actual one scale on the ground type thing. Like I enjoyed that aspect of it, to where it's like, all right, you're making real explosions here in a real field. Like there's no green screen involved here.
That's true.
And I think you've said it before, Alex, that the technology, I mean, the way that the practical things, I mean, they were ahead of their time for that time period, the types of things that they used. And I mean, I imagine they were pretty great shots.
This is 1963.
63. That's some big stuff. That's like Star Wars level, type of technology.
Well, let's be honest. We're like
the 70s.
we're like a decade ahead of Star Wars.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, one of the funniest things, for me at least, for the movie, was when they're getting into the boat, he makes the driver from the truck get in the boat with him, and he drives like 20 feet out into the water and then just throws him off the boat.
Yeah.
And I think the guy says, does the guy say he can't swim at some point?
Yeah.
So basically, like, presumably this man drowned.
Yeah.
Well, super
Okay.
slim. Like, so you'll learn. Like, that's
Yeah.
how you were taught in the 60s. Like,
Fair enough.
So can we, real quick, unless you... I wanted to go back toward the beginning.
Sure.
Well, one is the exact beginning. Did you guys like the opening scene, with Bond, or who we presume is Bond, sneaking around? I liked it. It struck me as I watched it because they had clearly like pancaked Connery's face with makeup, making him look odd to where you're like, what's going on here? And then, of course, the reveal is that, well, this man that we just killed wasn't actually James Bond. Did you guys like that?
It kind of threw me because I hadn't watched in a while, and I was like, "What the hell?" And
Well,
then they took the face up. I'm like, "Okay."
It didn't get me this time around because I remembered, but I remember as a kid watching it the first time and freaking out, like looking at my grandpa, like, "Did this kill James Bond? Like what?" Like, so it definitely got me then.
I thought it was a good scene, and it introduces you to Grant,
Mm-hmm.
and then of course they turn on the light, the reveal that hey, all these Spectre people are basically watching this training exercise, which is kind of neat. So I thought it was interesting and effective, and I liked it that they didn't just put Connery out there kind of as is. They mess with his face enough to where you kind of look at him as the scene's going on thinking there's something not quite right about him.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of...
they give you a hint to where it's not really him, but like something else is going on here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also a good showing of how capable Grant is. And I think that's the whole point of that scene, just to show you how capable this guy is that's going to be going after Bond.
I also kind of think it shows you how ruthless Spectre is because they allow him to kill one of their own agents.
Right.
Yeah.
Just
how
in a
much
training exercise.
how much they hate Bond enough to make a bunch of guys look like him so they can kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Ultimately, they could have just, put it around his neck and say, we got you, fella, and send him on his way for a pop, But nope, we're going to actually kill you
Yeah.
just because.
It shows you can really kill this guy.
All right.
I mean, I understand that Bond thwarted their plot, thwarted their plan from Dr. No. But, like, is it weird that they're so obsessed with killing Bond after he thwarted one thing they did? Like, now their whole... Like, see, this whole movie is just about them trying to get back at Bond.
Yeah.
Well, like Justin mentioned earlier, I mean, Spectre has a whole revenge department.
That's true.
Yeah.
So,
It doesn't take much for them to, activate that department.
Yeah, Bond was a known agent before then, so it's more like, all right, now this known agent is actually like foiled on one of our plots and all. Like I said, the revenge department, like, all right, let's take care of him and all that. I think it's one more step toward them as an agency that we're seeing.
Or maybe it's because he killed a number.
Yeah, just going higher
Dr. No
ranking.
was an actual,
But that's
one of
true,
them.
too.
So that could be why.
Is it weird that we don't know what number he was?
Yeah.
By the way, I do want to say this. Bond had to have done a number on Spectre at this point, because he just killed 3 and 5.
Yeah.
He kills 3 and 5 in this movie. Well, 3 and 5 die. He doesn't necessarily kill them. But 3 and 5 get killed in this movie. And I would assume Dr. No was probably fairly high. he's numbered, like you said. I would assume he's numbered, and they only go to what, 11?
I think.
That I don't know.
So, but what I'm saying is like, obviously number 1 is still there, but I'm gonna guess that he's killed 3 really highly ranked Spectre officials in the last 2 movies.
Yeah.
So if we can, also I wanted to touch on those characters, and I loved the setup for Kronstein, number 5.
Uh-huh.
I think part of the fun, with Dr. No and with From Russia with Love, and I have to assume with other Bond movies, is the kind of like the class, the classiness of things at times, or the intellect of people and how that's shown. I loved the chess match. The setting was beautiful, first of all.
Yeah.
The chess match with Kronstein, and it shows you this guy is smart. This guy is a thinker. He's going to figure things out. And of course, we find out he's tasked with creating the plan, and then we find out that number 3, Kleb, thank you, Justin, is then tasked with implementing the plan.
Yes.
And I like that dynamic, of number 1 saying you do this part, and then you do this part, and how that pieces together.
So let me ask you this, as a group, how do you think number 1 decided that 5 deserved to die instead of 3 when he killed 5 for the plan not being
That's a
successful?
great question.
It was his plan.
It was his plan.
And this is what your speciality is. Like Barry just said, it's like, I'm tasking you to create the plan. Your job is just to execute it because you have this field expertise, whereas yours is strategy and planning.
I agree with you, but at the same time, 5's whole argument was, my plan worked, her man failed.
Yes. I agree with number 5.
Well, yeah, sort of, but they, at the same time...
Well, at the same time, Bond could have been dead a long time ago.
Yeah. He didn't kill Bond, after all the times that he could have killed him. If he would have just taken the opportunity at one of those, chances, there'd be no more movie. It's over. Spectre would win.
I think bothered is too strong of a word. I wasn't bothered by it. I didn't want to see number 5 go. I wanted more of number 5 because I thought he seemed like a very interesting character.
Well, yeah, you introduce him in that chess match, so you're thinking, okay, this guy's, he's the real deal. He's extremely smart. It would have been nicer to see him develop even more throughout that. Maybe make some changes in real time because, hey, this part of the plan isn't working. Okay, now we need to do this. That would have been kind of cool.
I agree with you, Barry, but at the same time, I think that's part of the charm with some of these Spectre agents. Some of them we get to know really well, and we get a ton of backstory. Mm-hmm. And some of them, even though they're interesting, we get no backstory, and you're left wanting more. Because I agree with you, he is very interesting. And when he comes in to meet with number 1 and number 3, and after his chess match, he's very cocky.
Oh yeah.
He's like, I've thought of every possible thing that could go wrong, and I have the answer for it. So this is a perfect plan. Nothing can go wrong. He's absolutely positive that his plan is perfect.
Yeah, but for number 1 to reach out to you, and that means he's got that kind of confidence in you. So I'd be pretty cocky too.
But then all the more reason that I'm going to kill you if your plan fails.
Well, yeah.
Not only did I reach out to you, but then you had the nerve to tell me straight to my face, being number 1, that it's this cannot fail. There's no possible way. But all right, bet. We'll see.
And then it failed.
Yeah, and you died.
In the weirdest way possible. They bring in this huge, massive guy to kick him in the shin.
Oh yeah,
you could have.
But even then he was upset because he's like, it took too long. We need a quicker acting poison.
Yeah, 12 seconds.
Yeah, or it's still not good enough and all that. But once in the ruthlessness of that number, once again, it's because now we get to see number 1. Actually not see him, but we get there's main guy in charge, and here's who's calling the shots.
Mm-hmm.
So and I want to talk about number 3 in a second, but I want to ask her because I think Ray's position on these things is interesting. You love the realism.
Yeah.
And so does something like, the way number 5 was executed, does that bother you? Because it is kind of silly, ultimately.
No, not really. I mean,
poison tip dart.
Right, but you know, but why kick the guy in the shin? You know,
It hurts, Barry.
you know, why not walk up behind him? And you know what I mean?
I mean, because he didn't see it coming. He's a strategy guy, right?
Yeah. So,
He didn't see
something
it
like
coming.
that is, to my mind, a little bit silly.
Yeah.
You embrace it regardless because it's
Yeah, I mean, the strategy guy didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
Let's get him where the most ridiculous spot. Let's just make a joke out of
a
him.
fair point.
So let's just let it go. Yeah. So I'm down with it.
From a filmmaker's thing, I would say they did that because later on it's going to be attempted again by number 3.
It's
And
foreshadowing.
it kind of
And that's
foreshadowing
what it
type of
was.
deal.
Like, yeah.
All right.
Of course, it's not successful.
No, but once again,
that fight was hilarious.
But
I
once
laughed.
again, you understand what's happening and how serious. Because if you didn't
Yeah.
know that was a poison tip or whatever, you'd be like, "What's going on here?
Yeah,
Why
'cause
is this?"
I think they knew that looked ridiculous, so they have to
Yeah.
put some kind
Like-
of context into. Okay, no, you can't let that touch him.
like I said, if you didn't explain it or demonstrate it in some way, then it would just be nonsense to the
Yeah.
audience.
That's a great
Like,
point.
It would be too out there for even like you said, the mental gymnastics you'd have to do to try to buy into it would be like, what's happening here? Like,
it makes me, and again, I'm fine with it. I liked it. I think it's great fun. But it makes me wonder, like, okay, is that something that they drew from the book that they're like, we have to make sure this gets in there?
Mm.
Or if somebody, you know, writing the screenplay is like, hey, you know what? I'd like a shoe knife. You know, like, how did that come about? So,
Well, it's funny because you get about 20 years down the road and you got Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse. And
yeah.
So-
It's once again it echoes. It's just
and then, you know, you guys don't mind talking about number 3 a little bit. You know, great character. Of course, she's heading up Justin's favorite Smersh. But then also, you know, it's revealed that she's former Soviet intelligence, I believe.
Mhm.
Now, why former? I think it's because she decided, hey, I want to focus on Smersh. Right? Is that kind of the idea?
No, she's former because she went to Spectre.
Smersh is Soviet counterintelligence.
Yeah.
Okay,
And so she
gave
went
up
from
Smersh to go to
Spectre.
Spectre.
It's a better name. I would give it up to.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
she took the offer that Bond refused in the first one and all that.
Mm.
Yeah.
So like, hey, come join us. We'll give you a better deal and all that.
yeah.
Defect.
And it's interesting though that she can still use that because apparently Tanya didn't know that she was no longer with the Soviet government, and that's
Mhm.
why she could force her into the scheme. So I thought that was kind of an interesting dynamic as well. So the whole time Tanya thinks she's working for the Soviet government, obviously she's actually just doing Spectre's dirty work, seemingly because she just didn't know that, you know, number 3 was in fact no longer part of that
Well,
government organization.
That regime.
that
Yeah.
part of the plan was actually pretty ingenious, really.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They were recruiting Russian operatives to do Spectre's work because the Russian ops thought they were still working for Russia. Like,
Yeah, I very much like that aspect of it.
mm-hmm.
And can we talk about this stupid training facility at the beginning? Like, no wonder they lose. They got gun targets swaying back and forth like they're in a damn hurricane. Like, how are you supposed to train with that? Like, it just blows my mind.
You gotta hit a moving target, Ray.
Yeah, what at 50 miles per hour?
Also doubles as a resort. So
Yeah, I guess.
I will say it was one of my other favorite parts of the movie is when Kleb punches Grant in the stomach. Yep, he's fit.
Yeah.
like she definitely was going to cause some damage. She's like what 60?
Yeah, not Club, but Grant. You know, seemingly living the high life here at this place too. You know, getting massages from beautiful women.
Oh yeah, let me bring that up real fast. Granny Panties make an appearance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I think the way I looked at it is Grant is like their star pupil. So while everybody else is still training, he's getting a massage because he could kill any of them at any moment. Like, and they're already like, yeah, you don't need to come over here and train with these pansies.
He's their Bond. So
Yeah.
kind of
Right.
he's a henchman. They're goons.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. That's a good way to put it. So I looked it up, guys, and there's a list of all the numbered Spectre members, and like it lists all the ones we know, but then it has Dr. No at the end, and it says we never hear what his number was. So like,
I don't feel bad for not knowing anything.
yeah. So you know,
But he is a number.
they include him on
just-
the number page,
Okay.
but so I guess it's an assumption. Like we don't know, but why would you have like their biggest plan and plot and not be on the numbers?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like he's I mean, essentially from what we're learning from with Russia with Love, like that was Spectre's biggest plan ever, and Bond foiled it. So why would you give your biggest plan ever to a guy that's not even a number?
Mm-hmm.
Like in all reality, Dr. No dying, Dr. No could have been number 2. And Dr. No dying could have made, well, we see number 2 in a couple movies, but that Kleb could have been 4, and now she's 3.
Yeah, and they're always
You know.
replacing him. So I mean,
Yeah.
you know, so
And what's his name could have been 6, and now he's 5.
right.
What's his name, the chess player?
Kronstein.
Kronstein. Yeah. Kronstein could have been 6, and now he's 5. We don't know. I mean, yeah, I mean, they move down when they die, so.
So, but also this movie, talking about the villains, it, introduces us to number 1, Blofeld, right? They
Well,
don't
that-
reveal his name,
They have not said his name yet,
Right.
but that will be his name, yes.
but, we get him. And of course, you never actually see him, like Tom said, which I really like. I like that aspect of it, building up that mystery. So good introduction to that character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I like it now, but as a kid, I really liked the whole mystery of why can't we see number 1's face? Why can't we see number 1's face?
Arms and a cat.
Yeah, always see the cat, yes. That's it.
What was that?
Cat that-
What was
the cat
that
that hates
cartoon and everything? Where that? Yeah, because it was like the same. There was a cartoon where
Oh,
the kid I remember.
Inspector
Inspector
Gadget.
Gadget.
Yeah, it's where
Oh,
like,
yeah,
you
yeah.
never see the villain and everything. He's just always petting that cat and all that with that metal arm. Whereas like
Yeah.
once again, it's echoed in other media and all. Like,
Well, just like number 3 is Austin Powers. They make it.
no, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's-
Oh well, you got you kind of have number 2 in Austin Powers too.
oh,
Yeah.
that movie echoes so
Oh,
much
yeah.
of it. Like,
Who does number 2 work for?
yeah.
Yeah, good stuff.
Well, going back to number 3 real quick before we potentially move on from her is interesting character. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't touch on her apparent lesbian.
Oh yeah, yep.
Sexuality.
Sure that, yep.
Yeah.
It's 1963, and of course, we're all aware that homosexuality has always existed. But I just have to wonder if this is the first time it's been kind of shown on film. I mean, it's not gratuitous, but it's definitely
It was very
suggested.
subtle. Yeah, very
Like
subtle.
her
Yeah.
looks at Romanova and how she
She puts it.
you could see it in her
puts hand
eyes.
on-
Like
Yeah.
she was.
She like rubs her leg at one point. Like, yeah. I think it's definitely that. I think Kleb is a interesting character anyway because again we're talking about 1963 and a woman has risen to number 3.
Mhm.
So I mean
Yeah.
that itself, no matter whether she's what her sexuality is, just a woman being number 3, I feel like is something. And then the fact they kind of hint at the fact that she may be a lesbian is like, oh wow, like they're really playing with something I wasn't expecting out of something from 1963. But it's also something I didn't pick up on when I was a kid.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
what
I didn't even think
I
about it.
appreciate subtlety.
Yeah.
Not everything has to be in your face.
Right.
So it was well done.
Yes, I agree. It was. I think she's a good character, to be honest with you. I mean, obviously she dies at the end of this movie, so we're not, getting her again. But she was a good character. I think that like bossy, loud woman figure is always like kind of interesting. It's personally I find it kind of funny. Like when she's like screaming, like and giving these orders, like I find it kind of funny. But or when she punches Grant in the stomach, I find that funny.
You reminded me of the gym teacher from Matilda. Like that's what she reminded. She just had like the hernia belt and everything. I was like, that's what she reminded me of. Like when I seen her acting like that.
Trenchable.
Yeah, that's it. Like,
I mean, and Justin touched on it earlier. It was hilarious watching her try and kick Bond when he had her held to the wall with the chair,
Yeah.
like just over and over. And then Bond's line at the end of it, she had her kicks. Like,
Yeah, that's something that Bond has a ton of great one-liners throughout the movies.
And bring up another part that's kind of a comparison to the times from then and now. The fighting fish scene. Like, PETA would have ate that scene alive
Oh,
today.
Yeah, I didn't think
Would
about
have
that.
ate
But
that
yeah.
alive.
never do that.
No. The abuse the animals to the fish and then just fed it to the cat. Oh, man, there would have been a big lawsuit. So I
And-
thought I'd kind of bring that up.
It's unfortunate because it's a great scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's expository in who this character is, how he thinks, and you know, the use of the fish is, you know, they're fish. You know, so
Yeah.
I mean,
Like, that's what they
frying an animal.
yeah, I thought it was great.
Yeah.
Indeed. What, you guys have anything else about the movie you want to discuss? I touched on my points.
The sniper scene where old boy uses Bond as the tripod.
Yes.
Like,
Oh.
I,
Oh yeah.
like, I thought that was one hilarious, and two, I was like, man, the tinnitus, like just like the ringing in your ear and everything, like.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like I just thought that, and it took him so long to take his shot and everything. There for a while, I didn't even know if he was going to take it.
Yeah,
Well, I feel like he had multiple opportunities to take a better shot.
Yeah.
He shot at a moving target while going down a rope. Just
Slowly
shoot
down.
him while he's sticking his whole up torso out of the hole.
Yeah.
Just boom, and there it is. Like, but no, he waits till he's like shimmying down the rope to shoot him. And I was like, interesting spot to shoot. But
I wanted to talk about Karim. You know, since you bring him up.
yeah.
So of course he's, you know, kind of Bond's sidekick in this one, filling in for the dearly departed Quarles. But
And he dies again. So
utterly likable character, maybe
Very
even
likable.
more likable than Quarles. I guess I would say
He
definitely
seemed a little
was.
more capable.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you know, I
He
don't
seemed like
know
he
if
really did
Ray
a lot
mentioned
before.
it while we've been, you know, recording, but I know earlier he mentioned the espionage aspect and how much you liked that, you know, this person's spying on that person, but they know they're spying, and there's all just a big game, and everyone just kind of accepts aspects of it. And of course, he's a big part of what that is.
Yeah.
And then he even has his sons in on it, which I think is kind of cool. And, you know, I think he brings a fun, kind of lighthearted, but not silly aspect to the movie that was pretty much needed, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he had his own personal lady come in every morning to help him out, you know?
Beautiful woman.
Yeah.
no, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I kind of like viewed him as a mob boss.
Yeah.
Kind of had that
Yeah,
air
he
about
did
him.
kinda
Yeah.
have that.
Like a really nice one.
Yeah. I do find it weird. Like, a gift from your government was like the submarine, what do you call
The
it?
periscope.
Periscope thing, which was fine. But he's like, well, I wish I could hear instead of see, as well as see or whatever. And I was like, but how often is seeing actually helpful? Like, when you're spying on those people in that room, how often do they show you things you can see? Like,
Right, you're just really essentially looking at who's in the room, and that's all the information you're getting.
right. Like, feel like hearing would be way more valuable.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a cool little, you know, I guess gimmick of whatever you want to call it. I liked it. I thought it was fun that, you know, hey, we can go up periscope into the, you know, the Soviet, you know, spy center or whatever. That was very cool.
I think it was for the audience. Like I said, putting a bug in there or a wiretap isn't the same for like the viewer as like you said, this elaborate periscope where you can actually visually see what they're seeing type of thing.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And even the setting where the periscope is, of course, it's, you know, kind of underneath some dock area sort of thing. Of course, it's Venice, so there's lots of waterways and so forth. And there's the rats around and stuff. Yeah, it was just a cool setting.
It was.
Yeah.
It was very cool. I think, like I know we touched on it earlier, the setting is so drastically different being in Turkey and Russia and these places rather than Jamaica on the beach. Because once they get to the Jamaica, they're almost always either on the beach or in the water. Like, it's almost like this just like vacation scene.
It was daytime.
Yeah.
Like, the sun's out, and then this one has been more night. Like we already mentioned before, there's a lot of night shots.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the whole gypsy camp thing takes place at night. Him assassinating the guy coming out of the window takes place at night.
The whole training in the beginning.
Yeah.
That night.
Yeah.
So you really don't get sunlight until like in the truck scene in Italy. Like,
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. You're kind of right. Yeah. There's like a little bit. It's sunny out when they pick him up and drive him to Karim Bey's house.
Yeah.
You know, that drive scene is a little sunny, but other than that, yeah. And they, like you said, there's multiple scenes underground in those the water
Waterworks or
cavern
whatever, yeah.
places or whatever. So you know, obviously there's no sunlight there. So yeah. By the way, did anybody? We haven't really touched on this. Do you think, talking about scandalous stuff earlier? Do you think we made a sex tape of you and we're gonna release it? Do you think that was really scandalous for 1963?
I bet the idea of that.
Probably,
Yeah.
because it's now it's so like okay,
Yeah,
so does everyone else. You know, now.
I would say because you got to think, just even think about like just owning a Betamax or a VHS or whatever would have been back then. Like,
Yeah, but they had to have the reel though.
Yeah, they'd have it on a reel.
And
to,
why-
to even have it to like say like, oh, we could show anybody this. Like, it would be like saying that like now I have a deep fake of you, Ray, doing XYZ, and you can't run it through an algorithm to disprove it, so I can make you
Oh,
do
yeah.
anything.
Yeah, because
Like
it's not,
it would be like
I can see
holding that
that.
piece of information over somebody's head now.
yeah, 'cause it's not just about them having sex and it being recorded. It's there's a British agent and a Russian agent, and we
Yeah.
have them together.
During the time of the
True.
Cold War,
Yeah.
East versus West type
Yeah.
thing. So it's like I said, I think there's a different social and like you said, there's so many different dynamics to it that I think you'd have to really think far fetched to try to make the equivalent nowadays.
Yeah.
I thought that was one of the biggest holes in the plan, though. I don't think M or Moneypenny or anybody that actually knows Bond would believe for a second that he would commit suicide.
Oh no,
No,
yeah,
no, anybody that knows Bond, like
Like, oh wait, he got so upset over a girl he killed himself. That is not who James Bond is.
Yeah.
Like,
especially Moneypenny.
yeah,
You know, we've not talked about Moneypenny at all yet.
that is true. That is true.
And
I
I don't know that we even spoke about her when we talked about Dr. No.
don't think we did either.
I think she's awesome.
She's one of my all-time favorite characters. I mean, obviously she's a recurring character, and she is really one of my all-time favorites. Like Moneypenny is, and the back and forth between her and Bond is just one of my favorite things to look forward to in each movie.
yep. The throw the hat on the hook and how you doing, Moneypenny? And then they.
By the way, do
And
you?
then they go,
I-
Old fashioned workplace banter.
I read this the other day that the woman that plays Moneypenny and the woman that plays Trench were actually originally cast for the roles flipped. And then after they shot those scenes, the director said, "You know what? I think you two should flip roles and we'll reshoot those scenes." And they flipped roles, and then she's Moneypenny for movie after movie after that. And Trench shows up at the beginning of this film, and then we never see her again.
But they got it right.
Yeah, I think they
that
did
she,
too.
you know, her eyebrows were too dramatic for someone you see over and over again.
Yeah.
She has really, really dramatic, facial expression.
Yes, you're right.
She's still beautiful, but yeah, that stood out when I saw her.
Well, and Moneypenny, she's, of course, an attractive woman.
Mhm.
But she's not, you wouldn't look at her and think like, oh, she could be a Bond girl. You know what I mean?
More of a
She's
classic
more,
beauty.
what's that?
More of a
Yes.
classic beauty.
Yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't give off that like supermodel vibe.
Right.
She doesn't.
She's not sultry.
But yeah, okay, I like that. But yeah, but she is an attractive woman. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So yeah,
So can we go back to the train?
absolutely.
So there were a lot of things in the train ride on the Orient Express was a big part of the movie, huge part. I think Ray may have said 40 minutes
Like
or so.
40 minutes, it felt like, yeah.
Yeah. And there were aspects of it that I really liked, but it just seems like maybe we could have made this about 10 minutes less, somehow.
I agree.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm nitpicking. And I think it was a great setting, and a lot of really interesting things happened on it, like the back and forth, the cat and mouse with him and Grant, making their way to dine. Grant's drugging of Tanya,
Mhm.
which Bond allowed for, even though he noticed it. But I guess you play along, of course. There are lots of great things that happened. The reveal, where Bond realizes, that Grant isn't, working with him. But boy, it seemed to go on a long time. And I guess that's all I got to say about it.
Yeah, he kind of knew something was up because Grant kept calling him old man. And he's like, something's not right. And then he finally gets it, but not even until
jabs at the
Grant tells him himself.
Yeah.
Right.
Dude,
Well, yeah, he thought he was a Russian operative at first, and then he's like, "Yeah, I don't work for Russia."
More than that.
Well, once again, at this point, does he even know Spectre is a thing?
Well, he knows Spectre's a thing from Doctor No,
Yeah.
but I don't think he knows Spectre's involved in this.
Where you're the ones coming
He
after him, not
thinks
the
it's
Russians and all that.
Mhm.
Yes. So
I can't stop it.
Yeah.
I want to call my secret organization Smurf.
No, I do think the train ride was a little long. I mean, we have the part at the very beginning where essentially Tatiana is putting on a fashion show for Bond.
Mhm.
And then like you said, then you have him and Karimbe capturing the actual Russian operative, and then you have the death of those guys. Which maybe I look too much into this, but Bond says that Karimbe and the Russian operative killed each other. I never thought they killed each other. I thought that Grant killed them. Am I wrong?
I'm trying to recollect. It was an odd set of circumstances surrounding it, of course. I think that they made a cover story.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think
mean-
it was a cover story because I never believed that they killed each other.
Yeah, I never believed it either. But that's what he told. That's what he told Karimbe's son was they killed each other. And I was like, no, they didn't.
I'd have to go back and rewatch.
Like there was a knife in Karimbe's back.
Maybe that's just what make the situation easier that he went out fighting
Yeah.
instead of getting just kind of plotted against. Yeah. So
Yeah.
maybe it's a better way to break it down to his son and make him go down a little bit better of a story.
That type thing.
Mm. It could be. Do you like how, when Bond is talking to the son, he delivers the bad news, your father's dead, and the guy immediately gets upset and was like, who did it? And he's like, he took care of that himself. Now listen, he gets super stern and is like, I need help getting out of the country. This is about me.
Yeah.
Well, once your father's gone, now you're in charge.
Yeah.
You're now my go-to guy.
Yeah.
So it's hey,
Yeah.
you're number one now, man. Mission goes on.
I liked it because it wasn't, of course, it's not totally thoughtless and just callous, but it's also, we're going to man up and we're going to do what we got to do.
Because this shit's serious and we got to get this shit done.
Still a mission to be done.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Anything else, guys, before we move on to the next segment?
Nope.
No.
No, I think I think
everything
I'm
I
good.
wanted to talk about.
All right, fair enough. Well, that will end our basic talk of From Russia with Love and move us into our, ranking segment. So I guess we can do the easiest thing first. Body count for this movie.
So the one in the beginning was implied, but you didn't show it. So do we want to count that?
What we're talking
Sylvia Trench in the beginning.
about? Right. I mean, I think they did, but he already hooked up with her, so that doesn't count.
She doesn't count because he's already.
He's already hooked up with her in the first movie.
What about the gypsy women?
Yeah, no
Because
reason.
I remember.
What'd you say?
Oh
The
yeah,
gypsy women.
he got both those.
Because remember, Karim they said,
Yeah,
they are both
I'm
yours.
saying I count both.
I would count them, but again, we didn't actually see it happen. We just saw them the next morning. But I mean, you see them the next morning, and
They're still dressed up the next morning.
yeah. So I don't know, but I thought that I assumed he did.
If James Bond is left with two women and he and they are told to just basically do whatever you like, we all know what happened.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I assumed it.
Yeah. So we're giving him credit for both gypsies.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then obviously Tatiana.
Tatiana,
Yep.
yeah.
So it's another 3.
Yep.
So we're at 6 women and 2 movies.
Yep.
Okay.
Poor fella.
Yeah, poor guy. And by the way, I did like you brought up Sylvia Trench. I did like the carryover. Like, she shows up at the beginning of this movie. She's like, "Oh, you disappeared for 6 months. Last time you told me you had to go somewhere, and I just now got you to myself again, or whatever." So like,
sorry.
No, I was just saying.
One of my favorite and I love the little things. And when I talk with Tom, I know he loves the little things too. Is when Trench seems to have this realization that maybe she'll just have a little bit more time with Bond. She does this funny little clap.
She does,
of joy, and I just think it's
when he goes, "I'll be there in an hour," and then he goes, "Wait, maybe an hour and a half," and she goes,
"Yeah, it's excellent."
Yeah, like, oh my gosh. Like, I mean, let's just be blunt about it. Apparently, Bond did a good job the first time. Like, so because she's really trying to get back for a second time. So, good for him or good for them, however you want to look at it. All right, so now we got that out of the way. Do we want to do movie or do we want to do Bond Girl?
I say we end with the movie.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
Like
So
it's a finale sort of thing.
So now we are saying, does Honey Rider remain in the number 1 spot, or does Tatiana move her down to number 2?
Tatiana is beautiful, but Honey Rider, for me, she doesn't beat Honey Rider.
I agree.
I
think Honey Rider is one of the elite Bond girls, personally.
Yeah, Honey's number 1 out of the two.
Yeah, it's hard to argue. Again, Tatiana. I do think that if I was in some world presented with either Honey Rider or Tatiana to have on my arm, I'd probably end up going with Tatiana. But as far as being a Bond girl, you got to say it's Honey Rider.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Tatiana did put on a good fashion show in the train car, but
well,
Honey Rider is where it's at.
Well, we don't really see Honey Rider acting like a normal human at all. Like, she shows up in her bikini because she's swimming, and then it's just like now she's essentially on mission with Bond the rest of the movie. Tatiana is like a normal human for parts of this movie, like going to dinner, laying around in the train car, in the hotel room.
Like Honey Rider's backstory, where she educated herself through encyclopedias, and is now just pretty much sounds like she's living off grid, just collecting seashells and selling them in Miami.
Yeah,
kind of a weirdo if you think about it.
I was gonna say, it just appears out the beach and everything, to where it's you're kind of a little hippie chick and all that. That's what it sounds like.
And then just randomly committed an act of murder, and
this one guy did this thing, so I put a Black Widow and everything, killed him and all that. And did I do wrong?
I was mad because
I wouldn't make a habit of it.
Yeah, I don't know that Tatiana, and I don't know what Bond girl necessarily means. I know it's kind of a nebulous idea.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that Tatiana was really ever even given the opportunity to be what many people would consider as a Bond girl.
Yeah, she's more the damsel in distress most of the movie. Like, she's always like, "Oh, James, oh, help me." And she's passed out during the whole big action sequence on the train. She's
pretty much drugged a lot.
And you know what part of it may be, and you kind of said it, and I hadn't thought about it, is she doesn't seem particularly exotic. And that's because you spend so much time with her in these everyday sort of settings that she doesn't feel like, oh, wow. You have Honey Rider, coming up out of the ocean in a bikini, and that's basically what she is the whole time. And, you have Tatiana kind of, you see her around every day and you have some dinner with her. And
who's there against her will in the first place.
Yeah.
Be blackmailed.
She's too normalized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's fair. I like that.
Would you say her character was a little too developed for her part, for the part that she played? Because Honey Rider, I mean, she didn't have all that extra. We got her backstory, but it was very brief.
It was crammed in there.
It's hard to say. I don't know what I think about Tatiana, because I mentioned it earlier, because there's not a lot there to some degree as far as emotion and getting some feeling off of her. But she's also very much part of the movie, so she is developed to a degree. It's a peculiar.
Okay, let me ask you this, and this is more of a conversation, I guess, but then ranking the Bond girls. But how much of what Tatiana did was because she had to, because they told her she had to, and how much of it was because she liked Bond?
Well, I think that's what you see is that dichotomy in her character.
Mm-hmm.
To where, like you said, where like yeah, she knows that she does have this mission, like she's being blackmailed by who she believes the Russian government and all, but at the same time she's now falling for this operative and all that, and does have feelings. Is probably like struggling to a degree with all that. So it's like, what are you? What else? How are we really judging the character and all? But I mean, like I said, if we're just going as what is a Bond girl and everything, like I think that's why we had to define it in the first episode. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
to where like what parameters are we using here and all?
yeah. Because
But
if you look it up, there's several, online. There's different lists, and some of them will include every woman that's in the film. Some of them will only include the ones that have weird names. I mean, it's kind of you kind of define it yourself, I guess.
yeah,
All right. Well, that leads us to the final ranking, which is probably the most important ranking, which is the movie itself. So, does Dr. No remain in the number one spot, or does From Russia with Love take over the number one spot?
Hmm.
I'm going with Dr. No's number one still out of the two. Like I said, I felt myself actively like smiling during like Dr. No and everything, watching it and really enjoying it and having fun throughout the whole thing. Where like I did enjoy this one, but like I said, not to the same extent. Like I said, there were a couple lulls in it as like I get it for dramatic effect, but yeah, the train ride kind of drug on a bit. But it is what it is. But it was still an enjoyable movie. Don't get me wrong. But out of the two, yeah, Dr. No still takes it for me.
I think for me, I view them very similarly. Not that they're similar, but as far as like quality of being a good movie, I think I mentioned earlier they're just different. I do think that Dr. No was a little bit more fun, a little more bright, colorful, and I mean, they're hiding in the damn jungle wearing bright red and bright blue, like there's just colors everywhere in that movie.
Old boy sneaking rum around the island. I mean, yeah, like,
Yeah.
just
But in Dr. No, it's very dark and gloomy and all these things. But I feel like the plot is so much more intricate in From Russia with Love. It's like the Spectre plan makes the plot of the movie so intricate and so dynamic. That is the pull for this movie.
So where you have it?
I don't know, man. Like, it's really hard. I'll let you guys go. I'll think about it.
Well, I boiled it down to just one scene, and it's still that intro of James Bond and Dr. No. That alone kind of just made me like it's just cool.
Mhm.
And so Dr. No is definitely my number one.
makes
So
me want to
far.
take up smoking just so I can have a cigarette holder.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, smoking was
Yeah.
considered cool. It was, you had a cigarette in hand, just like I own the room without actually owning the room.
I think it's that commanding presence. and
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah. So yeah, Dr. No is still my number one.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you three guys have said to this point. And I guess I would say that probably if from a somewhat objective perspective, From Russia with Love is probably the better movie. I don't know if that makes sense, but to me, it's less enjoyable of a movie than Dr. No. So
I'd say it definitely has a thicker plot line if we're going to go that
Yeah,
way.
it's more.
But like I said, the first
more
one, it's
developed.
brand new characters. Nothing's really developed. It's
yeah.
like I said, you have to really kind of like listen to even know that James has been an agent in the field for like X amount of years and all. And like we get introduced to him just by tell him James Bond is here and all. Like it's so nonchalant how we're even introduced to the character.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like I said, it is what it is. It's brand new character development if you haven't read any of the books and all. Whereas like the second one and all, we're all already introduced to him. We get a glimpse of like the dynamic with the villains and all, but like you said, now you really get into the structure of it and like how powerful they really are. So yeah, I'd agree with you, Barry. But
Yeah. So it's easy for me to rank Dr. No 1 still and From Russia as number 2.
I mean, obviously, I'm outvoted anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But I'm fine with that. I'm fine with Dr. No remaining at the top. Ray, you cool with that?
Yeah, I'm kind of torn though, because I felt like From Russia with Love, they had control of Bond. They had plenty plenty of chances to get Bond. And then they just screwed it up. And then they sent this old woman in for a last ditch effort, which is like, what the hell are you guys doing? So, yeah, I'd have to go with Dr. No, number one.
All right.
Unanimous.
So Dr. No goes number one. And that will conclude our episode on From Russia with Love. We appreciate you tuning in for that. And we would appreciate it if you tune in next week for our Goldfinger episode.
I'm excited about that one.
I'm very excited about that. So thanks for tuning in to Blockbuster Bums.